Coalition wrote a letter to Ritchie Torres, and we are looking to meet with him and deliver to him in person.
Okay, thank you so much.
Where is Ritchie Torres?
¿Dónde está Ritchie Torres? Preguntan, escondiéndose.
Ritchie Torres is an AIPAC puppet. Ritchie Torres is an agent of the State of Israel.
Ritchie Torres es una marioneta del Estado sionista de Israel,
We
dicen.
wrote a letter to him a couple of days ago, and it's right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is read the letter out loud, and since he's not here to meet his constituents because he's a coward, what we're going to do is we're just going to paste it on his office, so when he comes in tomorrow, he'll see it, okay? So this is the letter that we wrote to Ritchie Torres that caused him to block us on social media. Here's what he said. Here's what we said. Representative Ritchie Torres, we're glad to see that you finally tweeted about the Bronx after 4 weeks of no mention. Did you forget you represent the poorest congressional district in the United States, where over 36.2% of your constituents live in poverty? We assume you forgot about us since you mentioned Israel 236% more than you mentioned poverty. You began your Twitter tantrum by falsely claiming that we are largely pretending to be from the Bronx. That's false. I want you to shout right now, be from the Bronx, New York. Your outside agitator trope attempts to shift blame, so nobody has to examine why your black, brown, and Jewish constituents and other working people for apartheid Israel's genocidal bombing campaign of Gaza. Ironically, though you claim to be a defender of Judaism, your tweets reveal two particularly repugnant reasons: genocide denial and slander of the Jewish community. As of this writing, approximately 4,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed by degrading military strikes, which you voted to fund. Among those dead, an estimated 1,500 children. 1,000 women. 2,000! These numbers are out of date. This was written a couple days ago, which I'm going to apologize for that. And another 12,500 wounded. Over 1 million have been displaced. Half of Gaza is children. By any measure, that is genocide, wreaked by the military which you voted to fund. A military that uses internationally banned weapons such as white phosphorus. A military that commits siege warfare upon a civilian population imprisoned in a concentration camp. A military that cuts off food, water, medicine, fuel, internet, and electricity. A military that bombs hospitals, schools, churches, and mosques. Shame on you! It's not blood libel, as you claim on Twitter, to point such horrors out. On the contrary, it's documented fact and the actions not of Jews, but of the State of Israel and Israeli occupation forces. Anyone who conflates those two groups is a true anti-Semite, guilty of peddling what's known as the dual loyalty trope. Those who read this should go straight to newspapers.org and type in Ritchie Torres throughout his career. You'll quickly find that Torres' political handlers include AIPAC and Elliott Management, which is founded by Zionist billionaire and Trump contributor Paul Singer. That's who Torres is indebted to, and ensuring working-class Bronxites. In your tweet, you also smear millions of Jews as violent and extremists, and absurdly as pretending to be from the Bronx. Were the several hundred Jews recently arrested for peacefully protesting outside Chuck Schumer's building and the Capitol extremist Ritchie? No. Only in the most Orwellian world could you paint the Orthodox Jews who took to the streets of Fordham Road with us this past nightmarish week as anti-Semitic. Thank you. Condemning those who fund and defend the murder of children by Israeli airstrikes in the name of collective punishment isn't extremist. It's basic human decency and respect for human lives and rights. There is nothing violent about the flyer announcing our upcoming protest. We simply call out your enablement of Israeli violence and crimes against humanity and make a series of very reasonable demands. First demand, end all U.S. aid to apartheid Israel. Second demand, stop the genocide in Gaza. And third demand, end the Israeli occupation of Palestine. What's actually violent and extremist is funding genocide and writing op-eds to deflect from such horrific crimes as you continue to do at every opportunity. What's actually violent is robbing the people of the Bronx of funding we desperately need for our public schools, for our public housing, for our health care, and for our migrants who are in dire need of social services. Giving into weapons contractors for an ethnic cleansing campaign against Palestinians. You don't represent us. 96.3% of your campaign's funding came from outside of the 15th Congressional District. You represent luxury real estate developers who are eager to turn the South Bronx into the next Williamsburg. Are we gonna let that happen? This ain't Williamsburg. I had a tough upbringing in the projects, oh yeah? Some of us grew up in the projects too, lacking hot water with mold, rats, and piss in the staircase. We remember what it's like to grow up in poverty because we still live here. Yes! The Palestinian people also have no water, no food, and no electricity because these have been cut off by Israel's siege warfare on Gaza. They're living through... They're living through a tough upbringing too. We have more in common with the Palestinians than we do with a vendido like you, who pimps out his race and sexuality to the highest bidder. Nothing is more despicable than weaponizing Afro-Latino and gay identities to provide cover for genocide. This is on behalf of the Bronx Anti War Coalition. You don't represent us Jews. You don't represent us Boricuas. You don't represent us queer folks. And you certainly don't represent the Bronx. This is a signed letter by the Bronx Anti War Coalition.
Ritchie Torres, shame on you! You're supporting genocide! You're supporting genocide! Ritchie Torres, you can't hide! Ritchie Torres, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! You're supporting genocide! Ritchie Torres, shame on you! Ritchie Torres, shame on you! We say no to leaders like you! We say no to leaders like you! Ritchie Torres, shame on you! Ritchie Torres, shame on you! We say no to leaders like you! We say no to leaders like you!
Next up, I want to invite Janet from the Bronx Anti War Coalition and the constituent of Ritchie Torres.
First of all, good afternoon, Bronx. Thank you so much for coming out for Palestine today. And special thanks to the Bronx Anti War Coalition, the Bronx Greens, and all of our comrades for organizing this event. Speaking as a Jewish woman, I want to get one thing right out of the way right now. Zionism is not Judaism. Anyone who claims it is pushes the anti-Semitic loyalty trope. Israel does not speak for the Jews. And though he's made a cottage industry, and I do mean cottage industry, of it, Ritchie Torres doesn't speak for us either.
That's right.
Collective punishment and genocide is a crime against humanity, no matter who does it. But Torres refuses to acknowledge that, because he paid $141,000 by APAC to look the other way. Whenever you see an op-ed or a tweet by Torres, and believe me, he tweets a lot, never forget he sneers and refuses to listen to Jewish groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, or Jews, and that's even more anti-Semitism by him, not us, by him. A few months ago, a group of us stood in his town hall and asked the congressman to explain why he voted to fund Israel's genocide of Palestinians. You know what he said? You want to guess? That it wasn't genocide because the numbers went up. Went up! Think about that for a second. That is exactly what white supremacists say about U.S. slavery. Pretending it wasn't all that bad. That's a coward's way to whitewash oppression and murder. And Congressman Torres is well clear. He should know better, but apparently he doesn't care. That night, he doesn't care at all. That night, he argued the Iron Dome was strictly defensive. Really, Ritchie? Then why haven't you brought the Iron Dome to the Palestinian children and other civilians who are being killed right now by U.S. supply of bombs? Where's their Iron Dome? Where is it? Getting into ethnic cleansing nations' shield to make their aggression safe for them isn't defensive at all. Every year, the U.S. hands $3 billion, that's billion with a B, to a nation which enjoys healthcare, education. But every day when I walk through my neighborhood, and I'm remembering road, I see people who are homeless, suffering, doomed to lives of despair in Ritchie Torres' district. This cannot go on anymore. Didn't you think this can go on anymore?
No!
And a ceasefire is not enough. It's a moral imperative all aid to Israel ends now. Netanyahu and his accomplices should be arrested.
Yes!
And brought to international trial.
Yes!
World leverage should be used to demand a single state with land back to the Palestinians and equal citizenship for all. There's nothing violent or extremist about such ideas, Congressman. That's restitution, fairness, justice, a basic respect for human life. Over 80 years ago, most of the world stood silently while Nazis tried to wipe out foreign people. And now with Palestine's so-called leaders, like Torres, are not even being silent. They're cheering it on and funding it. For history, for human rights, we must speak up against it all. And by the way, we have a right to free speech, don't we? Where's Ritchie Torres going to oppose that too? As a Jewish woman, I declare the Nakba and Zionism must end. Not in our name, not in our dime. Never again means never again for all. Thank you very much, and peace!
Israel, what do you say?
Israel, what do you say?
How many kids did you kill today?
How many kids did you kill today?
Israel, you can't hide.
Israel, you can't hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
Israel, you can't hide.
Israel, you can't hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
Ritchie Torres, you can't hide.
Ritchie Torres, you can't hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
So next up, we want to bring up a friend of the Bronx Anti War Coalition who was also with us in our last demo, and he took to the streets with us. We took over Fordham Road. We're going to do it again. Here is Rabbi David Weiss.
With the help of the Almighty, I pray to the Almighty to bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, that I may be worthy of conveying His message, and so, inshallah, sanctify His name and bring peace to the world. Greetings to all on such a sad occasion, such a occasion of bloodshed, of death, suffering. Every minute that goes by is precious because it's another bomb, more lives destroyed. We are here today because we are desperate. We are here today in the name of the Jewish people around the world who are true to the religion of Judaism. We have a history. Our history is, the Torah is 3,000 years old. We accepted a covenant with God to be subservient for 3,000 years already. We strictly adhere to that. Zionism is 150 years of a political movement. They have no right whatsoever to speak in the name of my religion. Judaism teaches us not to kill and not to steal, the basics of Judaism. Just as God is compassionate, you must be compassionate. Judaism taught us throughout our history, yes, we have to be loyal citizens in every country we're residing. 2,000 years ago, that's 1,000 years after we took the covenant, we made a covenant with God, we were sent into exile, dispersed amongst the nations, and explicitly commanded by God. Anybody who's a scholar, anybody who opens the Jewish books will know that we, since the destruction of the temple, are forbidden to create 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty. 1 inch, even in an uninhabited land. And that is why for 2,000 years, our history is we went through trials and tribulations, the Inquisition, the Crusades, yet we never established a so-called Jewish sovereignty, a state. Even if it would be a truly religious Jewish state, not this farce called the Zionist State of Israel, but whatever, we will never accept it, and we haven't accepted it. We went through the 2,000 years by the Inquisition. The Jews, they would try to forcibly convert them to Christianity. They burnt them at the stake. The remnants, the pictures, the history is there for anybody in Spain and Portugal. It's not a hidden history, it's a fact. And what did the Jews do? They were banished from the land. They ran away from these lands. And who took the Jewish people in? It was the Muslim, the Arab countries, and we flourished amongst them. We believe in one God, but we have a distinctly different religion, and yet it was never an impediment of coexistence. We lived and enjoyed the friendship of the Muslim people. We lived in harmony in the same courtyards. In fact, even some of my colleagues who are here are 8th-generation Palestinian more. We lived in peace. We made the kind of coexistence. We have a beautiful history of coexistence. Religion is not the cause of all this bloodshed. The difference of religion is something that was created out of fabric by the Zionist people, that they say that is the cause. It's a hate from Muslims to Jews. How revolting, how disgusting is that to say when the people who took us in and gave us a home and a safe haven and we flourished amongst them, to turn around for your convenience and condemn this with all the populace of Muslim countries as being anti-Semitic. That's shameful, that's disgusting. We are required by this Torah, our beautiful covenant with God, to show gratitude for good done to us. We teach our children, we talk about Maimonides, Rambam, who was in Egypt, our great rabbi, our teacher. We speak about all the other generations of our great rabbis and how our communities flourished in the Arab and Muslim lands. We teach them that they must have gratitude. Yet the Zionists, because they had this will, this yearning to implement and create their selfish Lord nationalism, they sat down together. Look at the farce, the hypocrisy. They made a so-called Jewish state. The Declaration of the Independence was read by Ben Gurion, their first prime minister. You see at the dais, not one man is covering his head. They're making a Jewish state. How comical, how sadly comical this is. They speak in the name of Judaism, in the name of God, when they flagrantly transgress all the laws of the Torah. They beat the Jews who stand up without arms, we're never militant. Nobody in our history carried a gun, yet they're brutally beaten, arrested, and murdered. Our rebels were assassins. Boys and girls are, here you can see young children. Boys and girls are arrested because they have mandatory IDF, military service. What do they call it? Not an army, Israeli Defense Force. That's part of the psychological warfare that they're using. Boys and girls get arrested by us because we refuse to serve in their army. We get beaten. There's a history of well over 75 years that the Jews are being murdered, beaten, and we can show you all these documents. Why? Because we want the world to know. Please stop using our name to kill, to murder, to rebel against God. It's unacceptable. It's not Judaism. We cry with the people of Gaza. We cry and hurt. We stoned this prior to the people of Gaza being slaughtered from day one when the Zionists came up to Palestine. We have our senior rabbis who spoke about Deri Yassin, how we lived in peace. They gritted their teeth when they spoke about the displacement of the Palestinians. How frustrated, how humiliated we are. It's being done in our name. People think the more the religious you are, the more religious Jewish you are, you support this wiping out of a beautiful people. We don't support it. We oppose it. We are children of the majority of us, of people who died in Auschwitz. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. My father escaped from Hungary when the Nazis came in. Oh, our families come from that. We with our lives, we came with the lives to observe our Torah, to keep our Torah. We died for a purpose, not to use our name for a selfish political purpose of taking over and creating nationalism. This is unacceptable. My grandparents' blood is boiling. This is unacceptable. We cannot be silent with God's help. The rabbis on day one, when they wanted to create the state, stood up and declared to the United Nations, not the Israeli chief rabbi and rabbinate. This is just another part of the masquerade that what they wear, the facade that they try to use holiness in order to intimidate others, in order to legitimize their illegal, their totally criminal occupation. But here, the rabbi in 1947 of the United Nations documents, the rabbi of the Jewish community, the Eidah Haredim community that lived for hundreds of years in Palestine, he said, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. We went to hundreds of thousands of Jews, stood in the streets of Jerusalem, and we went around the world. Invariably, the very religious communities do not celebrate the state of Israel. We mourn the state of Israel. We cry, we hurt, and we will continually hurt and cry as long as there's 1 inch of this criminal sovereignty, of this criminal occupation. It's not Judaism. We plead, as I said, a Jew has to be a loyal citizen in every country. We speak to our president and to our representatives with respect and humility. We say to you, I don't know where you're coming from. Perhaps you're being misled. Very many people have good hearts. They feel the suffering of the Jews from the Holocaust. They feel the guilt that they were silent by the Holocaust. And they want to somehow compensate and give them a home. But this is being misled. It's bringing more anger, more anti-Semitism. It's exacerbating anti-Semitism. It's against the Torah simply. Respect the rabbis who say that this is not Judaism. They have some political movement you want to support. Don't use my name, God help us. Don't support killing Palestinian people day and night. I mean, then, with God's help, we want the world to know, if you're looking for truth, step back. Don't insult common sense. What's basic, we live together, Zionism came, and all of a sudden, all the Arab lands, there's not a Jewish community almost entirely. There is still in Iran, by the way, there's other places, but the large Jewish communities disappeared because what Zionism created, a mistrust, a rift, a hate. So we'd say, the Zionist state of Israel is anti-Semitism. Yeah! Muslims, of Arabs, and of Jews constantly. And now, by God's there was a shock. 1,400 people died. Jewish people were murdered. Yes, it's horrendous, but remember, they know the truth, and they are daring the world. They're telling the world, you support us to kill somebody. Yesterday was the PLO, it was the Intifada. Today it's this because they're trying to obfuscate, to divert attention for what's so clear, that their hands are covered in blood, they are causing bloodshed. They'll put a Band-Aid, they'll kill, God forbid, thousands of people in Gaza. And what will be tomorrow? There's millions of Palestinians. They're not going to forget their father and sister and brother and mother. They're not going to forget their children. What do you think was natural? We're not condoning violence. Tomorrow it'll be somebody else, not Hamas. We plead with you. We have respect and understand death and suffering is because you're occupied. We plead with you. Stop the occupation. Respect Judaism. Respect what people call humanity. Respect what is godliness. Stop the occupation now. Stop it now. Zionism, no. The state of Israel must no.
Judaism, yes. Zionism, no. The state of Israel must go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Zionism no more.
Zionism no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel's not a Jewish state.
Israel's not a Jewish state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Israel no more.
Israel no more.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
You want to call on
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine.
Viva, viva Palestina!
Viva, viva Palestina.
Libre, libre Palestina!
Libre, libre Palestina.
Comrades, friends, I am excited about being in the Bronx. Because I was born and raised in the Bronx. And I went to school in Theodore Roosevelt High School, right next door. And I have a lot of words to say about the so-called man Ritchie Torres, as a good Bronx native would call him, but I will just say this. He is a spineless, bootlicking, disgusting man who represents nobody in the Bronx. Nobody in the Bronx.
Nobody.
And I would like to dare and say that if we go around the Bronx and we ask people who Ritchie Torres is, 90% of them will say we don't know who that is. Because the only people he represents and the people that he's meeting with in Washington, D.C. right now are the Zionists. Are the real estate moguls. That is who Ritchie Torres represents. And the people of the Bronx know this. We just gotta make connections. This man goes on Twitter because he's an armchair.
I want to go in the urgent care.
He wants to call himself.
Can I go in the urgent care?
But at the end of the day, he lacks the backbone to make the connection that his people, Puerto Rican people, have been under the boot of U.S. imperialism, of U.S. colonialism for 125 years. And he gave a fuck. If he gave a true fuck about what the people in the Bronx suffer, if he cared just a little bit about his Puerto Rican people, he would spend as much time to decolonize Puerto Rico as much as he spends protecting the Zionists. He could care less. But the people of the Bronx know one thing. We know, and we can make connections, that the same NYPD that harasses our people day in and day out are trained by the Israeli forces. We know that $300 million of the New York State budget go to Israel, while our people suffer homelessness.
this.